Tom Jones and the writer Henry Fielding. Written by Ohidur. Life and Works. Born in 1707 and died in 1754, aged 47 years, playwright, novelist, Tom Jones, extravagantly spent all, London, journalist, barrister and magistrate. Works. Joseph Andrews, Tom Jones, 1949, Amelia. Influences. Drama, journalism, classical knowledge, continental authors. 1. Dramatic, much better novelist than dramatic, characters derived from the Comedy of Humours, dramatic experience enabling him to create vital minor characters. 2. Journalism, owes a great deal to, appeared in periodicals. 3. Classical literature, comic epic in prose, man of 18th century. Philosophy of life. Age basically moral in outlook, age synthesized between emotionalism and nationalism. Fielding, common sense morality of the age. Richardson, a classic, stresses on a code or on conformity to social standard. Deeds are judged, morality and philosophy, by Christian view. Fielding, stresses native impulse, the goodness of heart, individual's conformity to his better self, judged by their motives. Morality, closely connected with good nature and generality of impulses rather than rigid but hypocritical code of ethics, healthy and common sense view of morality and religion. Father of novel. Sir Walter Scott, the father of English novel. Some, Richardson. 1 Critic. Fielding, father, Richardson, grandfather, W. J. Dawson, Daniel Defoe, Robinson Crusoe, G. K. Chesterton. Humorously, if Chaucer is the father of English poetry, Fielding is grandfather of English novel. Fielding gave English a novel, a new conception of unity and breadth. A new depth. 2 aspects found together very rarely. 1. Great imagination. 2. Great critical power, true historian of his own times. Reasons on fatherhood. 1. Art of characterization, a collection of human figures, so solid and real, so vital, so varied, not to be found except Shakespeare, amazingly alive. Even minor characters, hardly believed to be fiction, alive, full of blood, full of breadth. Antique dresses and manners are curiously modern, transcended the age. Modern. 2. Treatment of plot construction. Murphy, ill-constructed, stage experience not taught to construct but undoubtedly taught to construct the plot of a novel, an architect of plot. Fielding's realism. Realism is his keynote. Swift, pungent. Fielding, warmth of human sympathy, prime interest, everyday life of the ordinary man. Unlike Richardson, no heroes and few out-and-out villains, men with their weaknesses. Pictures of the society. 1 realistic painter of life and society on a wide canvas. Bunyan's dialogues are realistic. Defoe, illusion of reality, very comprehensive picture of life including the whole of society. Tom Jones, a true prose epic, amply reveals human nature, plot is artificial but picture of real life. 1 theorist to frame rules governing the novelist's art. Defoe, creates illusion of reality. Richardson, feminine heart, feminine feelings. Humor, boisterous and broad to the point of coarseness and a kind of freakishness of wit, the excess of his grosser mood leading to fantastic interludes and digressions. Partridge, humble companion of Tom Jones, is numerous, diversified and exceedingly likable and lively. 7. Fielding's narrative. Fielding is breezy, bustling and energetic, life on the highway/cottage/streets. 8. Fielding, a moralist himself, rebukes hypocrisy, often thought ridiculous or immoral, often have more real goodness of heart. Tom Jones, heedless, prodigal and licentious, but he stresses chivalry, warmth of heart, and generosity. Amelia, perfect woman, yet not supremely beautiful as Sophia, and very shabbily treated. 9. Fielding's style. X. Fielding's originality. -3 contributions. I. Characterization 2. Plot construction 3. Introduction of the comic elements. 11. Fielding's influence, very much influenced most importantly, Scott/James/Dickens/Thackeray/Meredith. Conclusion. Historically greatest importance. Later novelists learned everything from Fielding. Unrivaled, vivid imaginations, artistically valuable, for vitality, wise appraisal of human nature, excellent mind, unusual sense of balance, an inexhaustible sense of humor, a warm and generous heart. Fielding's theory of novel. Theory of comic epic in prose. New province of writing. Ridiculous. Only source of the true ridiculous is affectation. Affectation, from vanity or hypocrisy. I. Fielding calls novel a history. Fielding, a historian of society and social manners. 2. Comic epics in prose. Tom Jones most importantly, beggars to aristocrats, humorously, man's folly, hypocrisy and affectation, comic aspect, hardy, tragic aspects of life. Fielding, comic, upper classes, hide natural identity behind affectation, more object of satire than the source of humor. 3. Certain essential qualities, genius, extraordinary talent. Life provides raw material which he turns into a work of art with the help of his creative faculty. I. Creative power. 2. Knowledge of life. Plato influences the romantic poets of the early 19th century, to feel himself first. Novelist's characters, children of his own soul, joys and sorrows, also own Fielding's achievement and his influence on the English novel. I. Removal world of romance, made it an instrument of social criticism, brought a healthy moral vision. 2. Brought a sense of the importance of plot construction. James/Emily/Henry James, Joseph Conrad. 3. Brought realism to the art of characterization. Most of his characters are flat, simple/ are not complex, alive, keen observation to delineate, embodied universal traits. Harold Child observes, master of philosophical study of character, not likely to be surpassed, realized importance of providing characters with natural and vivid dialogues. Unraveling of action and revelation of character. V. Removed solemnity and gravity. Richardson, incapable, pure sense of human. Fielding, lively, healthy, robust sense of humor. Influenced Jane/Dickens/Thacker. Vi. Considers problem of geography. 7. Modern writer, true historian of his own times. 8. Enormous range of suggestion. -1. Novel of character. -2. Of situation. -3. Of plot. 4. Of intrigue and adventure. Conclusion. -3 main regions. I. Plot. 2. Characterization. 3. Comic sense. Introduction to Tom Jones. A critical appreciation. Salient characteristics. -3 years. The history of Tom Jones, microcosm, an ample panorama of epic dimension. Dryden, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. Joseph Andrews, Here's God's Plenty. Fourfold equipment of genius, the combination of invention and judgment, knowledge, of history and literature, wide social experience and generous sympathies, epic dimensions, England's great past and her prodigious future, narrates simply and straightforwardly, narrator, omniscient author, psychology of characters, Fielding, great artist, theorist, burlesque, parody, structure, compact and well organized, Coleridge, what a master of composition, though certain drawbacks, so mechanically put together, laborious artifice, frequent coincidence, plausibility, two digressions, Alworthy, benefits of matrimony 2, story, Man of the Hill -18 books, 6, Life in the Country 6, Adventures on the Road 6, Life in London. Nature of characterization. Lower, Partridge, Mrs. Honours / Jenny / George / landlord / landladies 2, Middle, Thwackum, Philosopher Square, Mrs. Miller, Miss Nancy, Mr. Nightingale 3, Landed Gentry, Squire Alworthy, Squire Weston, Sophia Weston 4, Aristocracy, Lady Bayaston, Lord Fellamar, wide range of characters, simple, complex, flat, round. Hardy, any complex characters, 18th century traits, usually flat characters, though live one st time authentic portraiture of children, Little Sophia, Tom, Blefil. Humor. Comic in prose, contradictions, hypocrisies suddenly revealed, chance encounters / incongruities / anomalies, due at all events to comic deliberation, broad / sane / extroverted humor, never malicious and never petty, knockabout comedy of fights and boisterous horseplay, Western, Partridge, carefully contrived entrances, exits and exposures, discovery of square inches Molly's room, mock heroic style, battle scenes at Upton Inn, never cynical or bitter, always tolerant, genial, man's weaknesses but not fiercely. Selective realism, special. No description, external house, external London, external jail, poverty of Mrs. Miller's relatives, horror / squalor / brutality / ugliness under the polished and glittering surface is hunted only. Moral vision. Dr. Johnson, shocking, corrupt, for superficial indecency of Tom's sexual misadventures, healthy moral vision of its author, goodness of heart as against cold chastity usually with hypocrisy, an all-out attack on hypocrisy of all kinds except Tom, Sophia, sexual vulnerability to be tempered by discretion, Fielding, an advocate for a combination of warmth of feeling and prudence. Conclusion. Its significance outweighs its shortcomings, comic spirit pervades the novel, Martin Battisti states. The last and the consummate literary achievement of England's Augustine age, great achievement for its richness and complexity, its world is dynamic, charged with the energy of sunshine and laughter and love, a celebration of vitality and a source of joy and wonder. An outline summary. -3 clearly distinguished parts are introductory to the main action, 21 Yacht Hoskins, Tom, 21 / Blefil, 20 / Sophia, 19, divided into 4 groups, A. Alworthy Group, B. A Mile Distant, Seagram Family, Black George, Gamekeeper, Huge Black Beard, Wife / 5 children, Molly, second daughter strikingly handsome but bold, Forward, Intrigued affair with Tom C. Western Group, 3 miles upward, Well-to-do, Sporting Squire, manor contiguous to the Alworthy estate, Widower, only child Sophia, Dogs / horses -17 years later, 3 Yacht Hoskins away, in the charge of a maiden aunt, on a Blackmore D. Little Badminton -15 miles, oddly Humours schoolmaster, clerk, and a barber, jealous, shrewish wife, Anne, Jenny Jones, extremely intelligent servant, Mrs. Patridge dismissed her in a fit of jealousy and returned home in Alworthy's parish, alleged him of Jenny's child. Tom died of smallpox. Jenny disappeared with a recruiting officer, Mr. Dowling, the Salisbury attorney, always in the hurry of business, informed of Mrs. Bleffill's sudden death at Salisbury. Rate is suspended for 12 octoseconds. Tom's reckless good nature, Bleffill's malicious hypocrisy. Teachers, Thwackham Square, in love, ousted with 500 in bank bills lost. Bleffill for beautiful young heiress, Sophia. Part 2. Jenny to London. -10 days. Eventful night at Upton 7, Sophia, Tom pursue, Mrs. Waters, Jenny Jones, identical, Mr. Fitzpatrick, Harriet, cousin-in-law of Sophia, impulsive Irish gentleman of jealous temper, pretty, giddy wife Harriet. -2 digressions, the narrative of the Man of the Hill, Mrs. Fitzpatrick, details, from place to place, day to day, hour to hour arrival in London. Tom/Sophia set forth, London. B. Tom encountered a body of soldiers. C. After walking for a mile Tom wrote 2 letters. Sophia/Alworthy, found he had lost -500, Black George, however, he delivered letter, 1 returned. Sophia sent 16 guineas. Ensign Netherton, threw a bottle injuring Tom seriously, imposed but escaped at night. 50, Little Benjamin, Mr. Partridge. Partridge believed, Alworthy, Tom's father. They met Mr. Dawling, Bleffill's death. The Man of the Hill, saved by Tom. Robbers, Tom rescued Mrs. Waters, pseudo-wife of Captain Waters. Ensign, Tom's amorous susceptibility of Mrs. Waters, who was taken for the wife of Mr. Fitzpatrick, who fought with Tom. Sophia, Mrs. Honor came. Sophia paid money of Tom's whereabouts. Muff, Partridge hired horses. Squire Weston came and thought Mrs. Fitzpatrick also there, but all already left. She followed Sophia, Mrs. Waters and Fitzpatrick towards Bath. Mrs. Fitzpatrick changed. Bath, towards Sophia. Cousins met. Harriet's marriage. Displeased parents, disillusioned, reached London. Sophia to Lady Bayaston, cousin, Irish peer's home. Tom recovered Sophia's 100. Tom, Partridge, London. Part 3. Arrival in London. Adventures of Tom and Sophia. Lady Bayaston, unappetizing, middle-aged, artfully bedizened woman of quality, never vestal kind. Lord Fellamar, fundamentally a man of honor. Mrs. Miller, simple, warm-hearted. 2 daughters, Nancy, 17/Betty, 10, Little Jack Nightingale. Mrs. Fitzpatrick hid information of Sophia. Lady Bayaston, introduced to Tom at a masquerade, lacks amour with Tom, even made him live in affluent circumstances. Methodist owner not helped later. She had to return to her own house from a far place. Sophia returned after first act. Lady's plan topsy-turvy. Lady was late. Sophia happened to meet Tom there. They avoided their acquaintance to Lady, Mrs. Miller, Nancy/Betty, with Tom, her lodger. Mr. Nightingale promised marriage to Nancy. Lady Bayaston stayed at Mrs. Miller's for about 4 hours, scandalized her. Mr. Anderson, relation of Mrs. Miller, highwayman to Tom, London, a fairly honest man in distress, materially helped by Tom. Nightingale to oblige father to marry elsewhere. Letter to Nancy. Tom convinced father only after the news of this secret marriage earlier. Lady Bayaston plotted a very black design against Sophia. Lady made Fellamar attack Sophia for marriage afterwards, but scared by Squire Weston. Squire Weston locked Sophia for unwilling marriage. Harriet informed Sophia's stay in London at Lady's. Alworthy, Bleffill stayed at Mrs. Miller, but all already left. Tom met Black George, who carried letters. Nightingale suggested Tom to send marriage proposal that worked properly, but it became an evidence for Mrs. Hunt, a very rich widow, below 30, proposed, but Tom easily refused. Mrs. Weston followed Squire and managed to get Sophia released and sent to her place under her charge. Tom accompanied Mrs. Miller and Betty for Hamlet. Partridge contributed a large amount of mirth to the audience. Mrs. Fitzpatrick made an appointment and Tom would meet next afternoon. Tom's ruin planned. At the instance of Lady Fellamar, engaged a gang to kidnap Tom to some far-off country. Harriet suggested Tom should make advances to Mrs. Weston for getting in touch with Sophia. She indicated her desire for Tom. Tom hastily left and met her husband. He gave a blow to Jones and drew sword. Fellamar, already dogged Tom at Harriet's, now rushed in and seized Jones to hand him to a civil magistrate. Partridge brought Sophia's letter from Black George, letter about Tom's marriage proposal to Lady Mrs. Weston, lady to procure Sophia's consent to Lord Fellamar, Mrs. Miller softening Alworthy for Jones, she, Nightingale, to relieve Jones' distress, Nightingale to prove the first blow by Fitzpatrick. Tom's reply to Sophia was not explained, still a riddle to Sophia. Mrs. Waters assured Jones of Fitzpatrick's illness out of danger. Partridge managed to see Mrs. Waters at Upton and recognize Jenny Jones, Tom's mother. Naturally, Tom's shocker, like Partridge's. Mrs. Waters cleared Miss Bridget, Tom's mother, and Mr. Summer, father, staying in her house. Mrs. Blifil cleared in a letter to Alworthy, but Mr. Blifil never allowed Blifil's hypocrisy. For reconciliation between Nightingales, Alworthy interviewed and learnt Black George had stolen 500. Alworthy learnt Tom's identity and tried to break Sophia's misunderstanding, and they were duly married. Conclusion: Tom happy with Sophia. Alworthy could not be prevailed upon even to see Blifil male characters. Tom Jones. Tom Jones' reflection of Fielding as a handsome young man, interesting character. His benevolent temperament, major flaws. His flaws due to unfavorable circumstance. Tom's depravity, in defense of Tom's character. Conclusion: Squire Alworthy. A godlike figure, his generosity and obstinacy. His sense of justice. Fielding's comments on Alworthy. Alworthy's views. Final judgment on Alworthy. On Alworthy, a weakness in Tom Jones. Conclusion: Squire Weston. A typical squire of his age, an unreasonable man, a barbarian. His inglorious encounter with Captain Egglane. His drawbacks: a burlesque character. He has a joy of life, weak more than demonic. Blifil, the villain. His roguery, his traits of villainy. Blifil's comparison with other rogues. Captain Blifil. Thomas Square. Black George. Reverend Roger Thwackum. Partridge. A man of oddity and humour, a jack of all trades, his dominant passion. Female characters. Sophia Weston. Father's little darling, Sophia's admirable love for Tom, Sophia's irresistible beauty, flaws in her characters, Rosalind, Viola and Sophia, Clarissa and Sophia, Sophia as a contrast to Jones' bright Alworthy. Lady Bayaston. Mrs. Weston. Mrs. Whitefield. Minor characters. Mrs. Deborah Wilkins. Mrs. Honors, Sophia's maid. Squire Weston. Barber Benjamin. The plot or structure of Tom Jones. Fielding, first conscious designer and plan to a narrative. 1st remarkable architectonic skill. Fielding, host showing visitors round a house. Remarkable craftsmanship. Structural unity, organic unity, harmony, connection between character and incident and style, coherent wholeness. Walter Allen, Fielding, like Henry Jones, as a craftsman. Unity of narration. Symmetrical arrangement of incidents, an organic plot. Unifying factors. Some sustained concealment and final disclosure of Tom's parentage. Oliver Elton, a puzzle. Others, love between Tom and Sophia, conflict. Young Blifil and Tom, quasi-picaresque sequence of Tom's adventures with women along the road. R.S. Crane discovers a distinctive whole in the novel. Divergent intentions and beliefs of a number of characters of different natures and states of knowledge are brought to cooperate with the assistance of fortune in the exposition and denouement of the plot. Jenny Jones is Mrs. Waters. The action begins with Bridget's plan to gain security for herself by passing off her illegitimate son. Tom is a foundling. She does intend, however, to explain the true situation to her brother. But her intention of explanation does not get carried out because of her marriage to Captain Blifil. Young Blifil is born, and becomes a potential rival for Tom. Bridget's plan brings Jenny Jones and Partridge into action, and both of them have to depart from the neighborhood. Tom has an instinctive love and respect for Squire Alworthy. It is the instinctive love of one good nature for another. While Tom's affection for Alworthy is in no danger of being altered, that of the Squire for Tom does admit itself to change. Alworthy is capable of misjudging character, and hence, capable of passing an adverse judgment on Tom. There are plenty of opportunities for such misjudgments to occur. Tom's actions, though quixotic and well-intentioned, can be interpreted in a bad light. One such example is his attempt to cover Black George and help his family. Blifil sees to it that every such incident is used for blackening the character of Tom in Alworthy's eyes. Initially, these actions do not cause much harm to Tom, but they give an indication of things to come. Tom and Sophia attracted towards each other, once again, in an instinctive recognition of similar good natures. They are brought together through a series of incidents. Sophia recognizes the basic goodness in Tom, and loves him in spite of his affair with Molly. She thus proves to be a better judge of character than Squire Alworthy. But Squire Weston does not like the idea of Tom and Sophia marrying, because of Tom's dubious parentage and his poor material prospects. Some event is thus required to change Tom's position as a poor foundling before he can attain his Sophia, since neither is willing to flout the authority of his or her guardian. The true nature of Tom's birth would have been revealed and have resolved the problem of unwilling guardians, if fortune had not favoured Blifil. Bridget had told the whole story to Dowling, but her letter is intercepted by Blifil. Fielding now sets in motion a complex action, which begins with Alworthy's illness and ends with his order to Tom to leave his estate. Sophia follows in order to escape a compulsion marriage with Blifil. Tom meets three persons on his way, one after the other, all of whom know something about his birth. From the first of these people, Partridge, Tom learns that he is not Partridge's son. He also meets Jenny Jones alias Mrs. Waters, and Dowling the lawyer, both of whom know fully well about Tom's parentage. But his meeting with these two characters does not immediately lead to a revelation. The incidents at Upton Inn increase the complications. Tom's gallantry to Mrs. Waters leads to an angry encounter with Mr. Fitzpatrick. He also misses Sophia who, on hearing about Tom's escapade, leaves the inn to go to London. Tom follows in the wake of Sophia, to go to London. His misfortunes are not, however, over. He is led into the disreputable affair with Lady Bayaston. In the process, he brings upon himself that good lady's anger. As a consequence, Lady Bayaston sets in motion new efforts to separate Sophia and Tom. Lord Fellmar's attempted rape of Sophia, is fortunately prevented by the timely arrival of Squire Weston. Lady Bayaston further sends the letter, which Tom had sent her, to Sophia in order to estrange her towards Tom. She also arranges to get Tom kidnapped by a press gang. In the latter attempt, however, she fails. Fortune ultimately begins to smile upon Tom. Mrs. Miller speaks in his favour to Squire Allworthy as well as to Sophia. The persons who know about the reality of Tom's birth collect near Allworthy. The letter from Square decides in Tom's favour. Allworthy at last sees his own misjudgment of Tom's character. Step by step Tom is cleared of the black character which he been given. Bleffil's rashness, and Fortune's intervention, leads to the revelation. Jenny reveals her story to Allworthy. Dowling, too, adds his contribution on being questioned. At last Bridget's intention of revealing everything has been fulfilled. The union of Sophia and Tom is partly brought about by the intervention of Mrs. Miller, Allworthy and Weston, on behalf of Tom. But the determining factor is the meaning between Tom, who is now repentant of his escapades, and the forgiving Sophia. Thus there is an intricate scheme of probabilities, involving moral choices, mistaken judgments and accidents of fortune, which binds the army parts of the novel together, from the time Tom is found in Allworthy's bed until he achieves his double good fortune at the end of Book 18. Tom Jones is a complex novel teeming with incidents and characters. The unity of the whole is achieved solely by means of a severe subordination of all the multitudinous details to the central plan. In the long and elaborate history, there is hardly any detail which does not, in some way or other, help to carry forward the main action to its conclusion. Incidents interlinked and interconnected add to the unity. The seemingly insignificant and trivial incident is made to contribute to the action of the novel. The structural unity is maintained by the repeated appearance of some objects and characters. Certain things seem to happen most casually, as if they were just not intended to have any important part to play. Yet, each such detail has a necessary place in the chain of events which lead to the denouement. There are many little circumstances, Fielding wrote, too often omitted by injudicious historians, from which events of the utmost importance arise. The world may, indeed, be considered as a vast machine, in which the great wheels are originally set in motion by those which are very minute, and almost imperceptible to any but the strongest eyes. Of such importance are the £100 bill which Sophia loses and the muff which she rescues from the fire. It is the £100 bill which gives a clue to Tom about Sophia's whereabouts. It later gives him a plausible reason for meeting Sophia at Lady Bayaston's place. When Sophia rescues the muff from the fire, Tom gets an indication of her love for him. The muff is left by Sophia at the Upton Inn in order to make Tom realize his folly and give an impetus to follow Sophia. The chance encounter with Ensign Northerton and the subsequent quarrel is not without significance. Tom later rescues Mrs. Waters from the hands of Northerton. Tom is involved in an encounter with a highwayman, who later turns out to be a relative of Mrs. Miller in needy circumstances. Characters and development of plot, harmony and interrelationship. Fielding shows skill in his management of characters and in linking their importance to the development of plot. Characters are not introduced for their own sake, as they often are in Dickens, for instance, because of sheer entertainment value. Most of Fielding's characters have a relevant part in the structure of the story. He did not let his attention be distracted from the main theme in the creation of some original and striking figures. Almost all of his characters are made subservient to the main theme of the novel. There is a good correspondence between character and plot or action. The characters are not there merely to provide interesting entertainment, but they contribute to the furthering of the plot. The first of the novel ends with the expulsion of Tom by Allworthy, and this is caused by Allworthy's misplaced confidence in his capacity to judge. It is helped by Tom's happy drunkenness and indiscretion with Molly, which is misinterpreted by Allworthy. In the middle portion of the novel, Tom's entanglement with Mrs. Waters brings about a whole series of fresh complications in his relations with Sophia. In the last part of the novel we have a similar complication arising from Tom's involvement with Lady Bayast, and Squire Weston's rigid adherence to well-established social values give rise to Sophia's decision to escape from the house. Blefil's utter self-centeredness and jealousy first act to bring about the downfall of Tom. In the end, they serve to resolve the issues. The characters are never introduced as mere comic appendages. Each has its own role to play, from Aunt Weston, whose political ideas come just in time to prevent Squire Weston from tyrannizing over his daughter and allow the girl to escape, to Mrs. Honor, the waiting woman of comedy, whose very defects make her invaluable to the lovers. Indeed, the way in which things are arranged has led some critics to feel that it is all done too carefully. None of Tom's good deeds goes unrewarded. Tom did well by the highwayman, and Mrs. Miller and Mr. Nightingale. All these persons, in their turn, help Tom. The book is a large organism, whose various parts are closely interconnected, just as Aristotle stipulated the plot of a drama should be. Each character plays the role assigned to him, and helps in the general progress of the whole. Movement of plot in Tom Jones like that of comedy. The movement of plot in Tom Jones follows the curve characteristic of comedy plots. It takes the protagonist from low fortune to high fortune. Tom comes on the scene as a bastard. His very earliest activities enforce the universal opinion that he was certainly born to be hanged. His reputation and his hopes are progressively blackened until he reaches the nadir or lowest position in London, kept by Lady Bayaston, then accused of murder and thrown in jail, and finally, as if anything could still be added in the way of blackening, presumptively guilty of incest with his mother. But the nadir of his fortune also marks its reversal or crisis. As Blefil's malicious machinations are exposed, so is Tom's true goodness, and his fortune sails to its zenith of romantic happiness. Tom is proved to be of high birth. He marries the girl of his choice, and he inherits wealth. This is the general plot curve, or as Dorothy Van Gent observes, the concave of comic drama. Unity through moral vision of the author. The novel gains in unity through Fielding's moral vision, which governs the whole movement and design. The subject is human nature and his purpose is threefold. He wanted to expose the ugliness of vice and the beauty of virtue, and wanted to convince men that they should follow the path of virtue and keep clear of vice. He also wanted to show the readers that virtue should be tempered by discretion. Fielding's purpose is realized as the action of the novel is developed. The comic style, most appropriate to subject, comic epic in prose, style is consistently comic, satirical, and especially ironical. The light, gay and humorously ironical style is most appropriate to his purpose. Fielding enables the readers to laugh without rancor at their own follies, which they cannot but recognize in the various characters. The style helps to point out the follies, but does not condemn, thus it gives rise to reflection rather than bitter condemnation. Blemishes, shortcomings. Some including Coleridge eulogizes but not recent critics blindly. Digressions. Man of the Hill's story, offers a contrast to Tom and helps to emphasize the sanity of Tom's view of life, Tom equally wronged by him too, Mrs. Fitzpatrick's account warns Sophia of the dangers of displaced attachment and runaway marriages. Besides of idly writing a comic epic in prose and other excuses, minor digressions, Tom's watching the puppet show and his meeting with gypsies, performance of Hamlet. The writer is assistant professor of English and director, Language Center, University of Information Technology and Sciences, UITS. Please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.